This is a hat with multicolored dotted veil trim. And this is the same hat with one color taken away and double the amount of a new color added. Did you catch the difference? Let's look at them again side by side. See it now? Looking at it quickly, you might not be able to spot what is different, but you can tell something is different. And that's exactly what my client was hoping to accomplish. She loved one of my ready-to-wear pieces, but needed a subtle kick of new color added in. And because we had many colors of chenille dots on the veiling, this was easy to do without messing too much with the balance of the whole piece. Because like it or not, overdoing or underdoing something in millinery is a definite possibility.
Bombastic side-eye, criminal offensive side-eye.
But I digress. A milliner crafts a piece carefully, so removing or adding elements can throw off that precise trim composition pretty quickly. Ugh, get rid of all that. Better. But thankfully in this case, the client simply wanted to bring a deep teal color into the mix, but in a subtle way. Simply changing out the chenille dots on the veiling is enough to accomplish this, and we don't risk upsetting the balance. Just one problem. I don't have any deep teal chenille dots. It is impossible for any milliner to stock every single color and shade of every trim. And that's when we turn to dyeing, tinting, painting, and other customization methods. Today's is a super simple one using alcohol ink markers to change the color of the chenille I had on hand. We will need something to protect your work surface. I use an old plastic placemat, a piece of paper for color swatching, an apron and gloves if you wish, alcohol ink markers, link in description for my set, or you can buy them individually at most any art supply store, an old towel you don't mind getting marker all over, a pair of wire cutters. I use a small pair of beading side cutters for this, and chenille stems, also known as pipe cleaners. Yes, those cute dots on lots of millinery veiling are in fact pipe cleaners. Higher end veiling may have specialty chenille made of silk, small cut circles of fur felt, or even pom-poms. And of course you can find beautiful vintage veiling with dots made from a finer, softer, more densely packed chenille. In this case, the dots do not have a stiff wire in the center like our pipe cleaners, but more of a fine cord. You may find them affixed to vintage veils with adhesive, or in certain cases, sewn by hand. As someone who has done this, it's a lot of work. When I want to mimic that finer vintage chenille, which is a word for caterpillar in French, my go-to choice is the finer cotton pipe cleaners. You can see the cotton stems match the size and texture of vintage chenille much better than the larger synthetic pipe cleaners available in most craft stores. I find them at vintage stores in fun colors, but they are still made today and are available in neutrals. Link in the description. No matter which you use, you'll get lovely results on your veiling. Today I'm using the standard synthetic craft store pipe cleaners, as that is what was originally used on the veiling. I'm choosing to test this on white and light blue to see which turns out better. To start this process, let's remove the color my client doesn't want, the lilac. They're randomly scattered, so it's a little treasure hunt. Chenille dots are clamped onto the veiling in the same way a stapler folds a staple down.
But then they switched from the swing line to the Boston stapler, but I kept my swing line stapler because it didn't bind up.
Except in this case, the ends of the stems overlap. And because the chenille is fluffy, it hides the tiny wire end, making a seamless-looking velvety dot. To remove the dot, we simply locate and unfold each end. We simply locate and unfold each end. As you can see, it's a slow process. Don't rush it, as you could pull and break the veiling in the process. Once you've hide and seeked all those dots and removed them, you can set them aside for future hats, because milliners are nothing if we do not have random containers and drawers of things. Plus, you'll need them for reference later when you're cutting your new dots to the correct size. Next, lay your placemat and piece of paper down over your work surface with your stems on top ready for coloring. Once we are set up, we need to select several colors close to the shade we are hoping to achieve and swatch each of them and let it dry to see which color matches the best. I find that alcohol ink markers need about 15 minutes to dry enough to give you the best representation of the final color they will be. Once you've selected the best shape, do a small swatch test on your chenille stem and let it dry fully before assessing the results. Make sure you evenly coat the area you are tinting. I did this on both the white and the blue to see which looked best. I wasn't 100% sure about my color choice, so I went back and tested a few others just to be sure. I decided white was the best base color option for my project, but for the sake of video, I'm showing both. Make sure you coat your stems evenly and get the marker down close to the wire while working. I prefer to let mine dry overnight, but a few hours are fine if you're in a rush. Just FYI, the markers can spatter a bit while you work, so take care to protect your hands and clothing from staining, as I so obviously forgot to do. Day 2. Since our chenille stems are a poly material, there will be residual ink, even after drying, that can transfer. You may also notice that despite your best efforts, it may look a little patchy. Not a problem, and we take care of that in the next step. To remove the excess ink and even the color out, I pull the stem through an old towel repeatedly to get as much of the excess product off as possible. You will notice the color lighten ever so slightly, so take this into account when coloring your stem. Adding a layer or two extra if needed. Do this until the stem does not transfer color when you touch it gently with your hands. At this stage, the stem will still transfer some product onto the towel when pulled through, but gentle handling should not produce much transfer. At this point, if the color is correct and the application is even, you can cut your stems to the correct size. I'm using the original lilac pieces I removed as a size guide and my beading side cutters to snip them. Once you have all your pieces cut, you can put them back onto your veiling. To do this, we're just reversing the process of removal. I've gotten to the point where I just wing it with placement, but if you are new to this, consider mapping your dots out before pinching them into place. Of course, they are easily removable, but if you want to save yourself the trouble of moving them around a lot till you find the right balance, this can save you some time. I find a hole punch and some old adhesive labels or stickers a great option for mapping out my dots. Easier and more visually effective than putting a bunch of pins in your veiling. Veil dots, or spots, are placed over or around the square points in the veiling, or at a point where the threads intersect. This gives the dot stability and keeps it from shifting. You can mark the places you took your old dots off and put them back exactly in that space, or you can place them where you think they make the most sense with regards to the color and spacing of each. I'm going to place mine where I think they fit best, both because these dots are now one of the darkest colors on the hat and they need careful balance or they will look crowded, and because I doubled the number of dots to bring that color forward in dominance over the other dots. Be sure to look at your hat from all angles while you're doing this, so the spacing makes sense from all sides. To place a dot onto the veil, divide the cut piece of stem into thirds. You can eyeball this. Bend each of the end thirds into a 90-degree angle and leave the middle third flat. Using your index finger as a guide, place the pre-bent stem over a square of the veiling, centering the square in the unbent middle third of the stem. Fold the two ends securely down around the square and voila! Dot! Repeat until all your dots are perfectly placed. You can place dots onto veiling before or after it is sewn to the hat, but keep in mind that depending upon the positioning of the veil, you may have to move some around during or after stitching the veil in place. Also, if you manhandled your hat a bit during this, like me, you can refresh the other trims with your steamer. And here she is looking absolutely gorgeous, and we are none the wiser that something changed. So to finish up, a few notes on why I use alcohol ink markers. Alcohol ink is acid-free, permanent, light, non-sticky, and blendable, and you can create nice ombre effects using straight alcohol or a special blending marker. I've tried quick methods like fabric spray dye, Design Master, but they just ruin the texture of the stems. I'm pretty sure any type of paint is out for this reason. Fabric markers work fine, but are more cost prohibitive if you want a wide color range and you can't blend them as easily. Also, some brands are too thick of a formula for the delicate chenille. You can also use Sharpies for this, but I think the alcohol ink has less odor, and in my experience, some colors of Sharpies, the black in particular, have a slight red cast to them, and the formula is ever so slightly stickier than the alcohol ink. So now that you have the knowledge, go forth and customize your own hat or a birdcage veil, and be prepared for admirers.
Nice hat.
Thanks for watching, and I'll be back next month with more millinery tips and content. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, please consider liking and subscribing. It will help me grow my channel and bring you more millinery content. Take care, my hat friends!